Hello YouTube, welcome to rFactor. This is a simulator now in development by Studio 397 and in open beta for DX11. This has been out for quite a while. It was recently taken over by Studio 397 and I thought I'd give it a go because I've managed to get it working without it crashing, and I've managed to get it working without things going horribly wrong, and I thought, well, why not? You know, DirectX 11, that means the graphics are going to be improved, and I've heard a lot of good things about rFactor, and I think it's a very, very competent simulator, and I just wanted to see, you know, what it's like. And I was gifted this some time ago by, I think it was Jonas, so if you're still watching these videos, thank you very much. So we're just going to jump into session settings here, and I'm just going to show you what I've set up for practice. We're going to start in the rain, and then we're going to be going into some clouds, and then it's just going to heat up, so on and so forth. Yeah, just a normal sort of day. What I'm going to try and do is I'm going to see if I can get it maybe quite early in the morning. Maybe 9 AM or something, you know, a 9 AM practice, or 10 AM practice, there we go, that will do. I'm going to pick the Formula Renault 3.5 car, as that's one of those that has been updated for DX11, and I'm going to be at Silverstone on the GT layout, as that is also been updated for DX11. So, let's give this a go. Silverstone GT, length 5.891 kilometers, 3.661 miles, location Towcester. So it's Silverstone, Northamptonshire, Great Britain. It's a road course, Formula 1 road course actually. First opened in 1950 for the Formula 1 Championship, I believe. So let's have a look. Settings we don't need to worry about. I've already set all this up, so that's okay. Audio is fine. Spotter volume actually I'm going to bring down. All this is off apart from anti-lock brakes, which are on low. Should I just switch? I'm going to switch anti-lock brakes off just to see what happens. And I'll bring this down to, say, I don't think I'm going to be doing any more than 15 laps. And odds are I'm probably going to end up crashing anyway. So yeah, lots of nice things here to adjust. We've got the gear ratios, which comes up with a nice graph as well, which I'm quite happy with. Wheel range, lock, power pump, brake, preload, front wing, rear wing angle. Rev limiter we can't really change on this car, or maybe we can't at all. Radiator size, so that's obviously for how much air comes in. Engine mixture, boost mapping, and the brake map, which we can change the brake map, but I don't know what the brake maps are. So yeah. Suspension looks absolutely crazy. There's loads and loads of things on suspension here. And I'm quite happy about that, as well as, well, you know what, there is something here. I wanted this to be in Newton meters instead of foot-pounds per inch, but I couldn't get that working because I can't have a mix between imperial and metrics for some reason on a number of things. And I'm a little, sorry, no, actually, I don't mind that in pound-feet per inch. This, kilopascals, I'd rather have this in PSI as opposed to kilopascals, but if I do that, then I sort of lose the other options which I'm used to. So that's something for Studio 397. If you're watching that, allow us to actually change individual options on the settings. So individual settings over here in, well, wherever it is, it's, yeah, this units, metric, imperial, allow us to pick what units we want for pressure, for speed, for temperature, so on and so forth. I think that would be really, really great. Let's get out there, shall we? Let's have a look at what we've got. I can see the dynamic weather because it's actually, you could actually see the skies clearing up a little bit. I have got track progression on real, but I've got weather progression right the way up now. Let's see what I can do here. What I've noticed is I'm on dry tyres on a wet surface. That's going to be interesting. Well, I thought it would have given me wet straight away, but it obviously hasn't. Let me try locking up my tyres quite significantly. The reason I'm doing that, I think I saw It looks like I can see wear on the tyres, which is kind of impressive. Okay, so I'm going to go back, and I'm actually going to give myself some wet tyres first. Good sounds. Good sounds. Here we go. That's more like it. And you can see that's cleared up even further. Right, off we trot again. Alright, let's see what we can bring. Suddenly got more grip. It looks like the rain may be clearing very quickly though, but for now it is raining. And although the wet tyres probably won't come into play on this lap, since I was doing okay on the dry, I think over the next couple of laps, if it continues to rain, over the next couple of laps I think it is going to come into play, because the track will be getting wetter. You see, now that is definitely getting wet on certain corners, which I'm quite impressed with, actually. That's actually quite nice to see. But it's definitely still got a fair amount of grip, but you can see the spray being kicked up in the mirrors. It looks like this area, it looks like it's going to be raining. So let's have a quick look around this. So we've got modeling. Modeling looks fairly good. Texturing could use some improvements, but I mean it's nothing to sniff at. I think really it's the shaders that need some improvement, and maybe flare, post-processing, stuff like that. In terms of how things look overall, I'm actually quite impressed. I'm actually very impressed. Right, this is definitely a wet section of track. But it's not so wet yet that I'm slipping and sliding around. Now I want to see if it does get pretty wet, or will it just... first of all, it might just dry up. Avoid... Oh, I hit it. Obviously, without the anti-lock brakes, which I've all the little testing I did with anti-lock brakes on, so it's going to be interesting to see what it's like without anti-lock brakes. Of course, I have driven a car without them before, so in real life, so I should be alright. But it's very different in a simulator, only for one particular reason, and that is that in the simulator you don't... Oh, that's wet. That was actually wet. You don't have... In a simulator you don't have the feeling of the brakes locking. You don't get that feeling of the brakes locking. You don't have that fine feeling of a hydraulic brake pedal unless you've got some pretty high-end equipment, in which case you'll be absolutely fine running without anti-lock brakes all the time. And you'd probably be incredibly quick without anti-lock brakes, but you've got to sort of know how much you're pressing. Essentially, you need to know how much you're working on a potentiometer to understand what your braking is like. I like that. If you just saw, as we went under that bridge, the ground was dry under the bridge. You saw the lighter grey, whilst everywhere else is a darker grey, a more wet surface texture, which is nice. And I think I'm starting to see reflections as well. So that's showing it's definitely getting wet. So is that showing it's starting to get wet. I definitely can start seeing surface reflections on some corners. 206.68. Right, let's see. If this lap is slower and I do a good lap, that means it's definitely getting wetter. But yeah, so modeling and texturing wise, I think it's fairly alright. I think they need to work on the shaders. Of course, there could be actually the clouds. I think maybe work on the clouds. They don't look too realistic at all. So maybe work on the clouds a bit, and that would be quite fancy. I think the car looks very good. The car does look very good. I can't see any sort of raindrops on the car, so that's something maybe to take into account. There's no raindrops on the car. That would be nice to see. Maybe raindrops on like a visor or something to make it harder to drive. That would be kind of cool as well. Because at the moment I know it's raining, but I mean, I can see the raindrops. I doubt you on YouTube, if you're watching this on YouTube, you're not going to be able to see the raindrops. The compression's not going to be able to show you those raindrops. Yes, it's not really that heavy rain, but it is enough to be wetting the track quite significantly. But I'd like, at this sort of speed, to have, you know, raindrops splattering in your face or something like that. That would be pretty nifty. And there is definitely reflections on the ground now. I like that. Dynamic weather is not something I'm used to driving in. In Assetto Corsa, obviously, we don't have dynamic weather, so this is something very new. Watching the track visibly get wetter. This corner is incredibly wet. Yeah, that corner is incredibly wet. Whilst the rest of the track is not as bad. 202.8. I'm getting faster, so... But let's see. See, now we can start seeing reflections on other parts of the track as well. So, with this dynamic weather, does it work in various parts of the track as well as over... you know, over the course of time? Because it looks like Club Corner is a lot wetter than this lot is, but this lot is starting to get wetter now. But the first corner that I found, like this corner, isn't too bad. This corner is not as bad, but this is... See, now it's starting to get bad, and you can see the reflections now. But overall, it's, you know, it's still drivable. This area doesn't look that wet at all, actually. This corner does. Maybe it's track surface based. Maybe it's track surface based, I don't know. Maybe there's different sorts of track surface here. Oh, I'm gonna go straight across. That was the safest thing to do in the wet. Alright, alright. Enjoyable. Enjoyable. Sounds wise, it's fairly impressive. And what I do like about this, just if nobody's played rFactor before, the way rFactor works is you subscribe to whatever cars you want. Some are made by Studio 397 or ISI before them. The other ones are made by modders. So you can, yeah, that's definitely wetter than any other part of the track. So you can basically download whatever car you want and drive around in whatever car you want. So 202.50 still. So what would happen is that, say you didn't want this car, say you didn't want to do a Renault Formula 3.5, you didn't want this car, which okay, clutch in. Which I would then be asking you why don't you want this car, because this is actually, I'm quite enjoying this car. But my point is, if you didn't want this car and you wanted another car, you could always get that other car. And if you wanted another car if you wanted this car and not another car, you can just get this car, and that way you save on hard drive space. Instead of having 100 cars or whatever on your hard drive, which is taking up a whole bunch of space. Say you're short on hard drive space, but you really like one particular car that you really want to drive and perfect and learn to race a lot, then you just download that car. And I think that's really, really clever. I think that's really well done. And the same goes for circuits. So say you want Silverstone, but you don't want, I don't know. Let's say you want Silverstone, but you don't want Spa, which again I would then be asking you why. But say you did want Silverstone and not Spa, or Spa and not Silverstone, you can pick whichever one you want. You can pick the track you want, and job done. And that'll save you some hard drive space. Caught that slide. And I think that's really, really cool. That's a good idea. It makes sense in my head to do that, and I wish other simulators would follow suit. I suppose flight simulators in a way follow suit. You have a number of, or a few flight simulation, you know, you have a few aircraft, and then you have to sort of, oh dear, and then you have to sort of purchase the additional aircraft that you want, or download them if they're free, if they're freeware. So you know that that sort of works. That makes sense. And that sort of makes sense to me, because I've got a couple of add-on aircraft for Flight Simulator, but I don't have a whole bunch of them. Yes, okay, one particular reason for them is that it would cost a huge amount of money to buy a whole bunch of them. But another reason is, even if I did have that huge amount of money, I wouldn't have the hard drive space for it. Unless I had, you know, a 500 gig hard drive specifically just for Flight Simulator, I doubt I'd be able to put on every single mod that I would want. So that's something, you know, it makes sense in a racing simulator as well. So you could essentially, if you wanted, this simulator could grow to have, you know, let's say modders and that made 600, 700 cars for this. I know it probably won't happen. In fact, most likely it won't happen. But say they made 600 or 700 cars for this, it would mean that you wouldn't need to download all 600 or 700 cars. Now those 600 or 700 cars, let's say each one is 500 meg. 500 meg download per car with all its liveries and all that sort of stuff, and you're talking 350 gigabytes for 700 cars. Say you only want 100 of those cars, 50 gigabytes. So you saved 300 gig right there. I'm being a little bit over zealous on the throttle pedal now, which makes sense to me. That makes total and complete sense. I don't think it's raining anymore, you know. I think it's just a wet track. Let's see if we can start drying out the track by doing some laps. But moving on from what I think is a fantastic idea base model, physics in this. Well, we saw that with the setup screen, there's so much that we can set up. There's a lot in the way of setting up. There's a lot in the way of setup, which I think is really, really cool. That bollard's missing. Having all those setup options means that you can really fine-tune and hone the car for your driving skills. I've got to be really careful on the throttle now. I can feel the car trying to get away from me. Even though the rain seems to have stopped, it's just very, very wet now. So yeah, you can really fine-tune your car, and the physics feel really, really good. I've had some play around off camera with, you know, suspension physics and tires, changing out the tires and messing around with wet tires on a dry track, dry tires on a wet track. I've messed around with camber options, tow, caster, all of that stuff. I've been messing around with suspension, rebound, dampers, spring rates, preload, and all that kind of stuff. And it really changes the way the cars drive. And I think that's really nice, the way the physics respond. And it feels very fluid and very realistic. Now, until I played rFactor, I thought Assetto Corsa was the #1 in physics. Comparing it to Project Cars and Gran Turismo, and even, I think even to iRacing, Assetto Corsa for me was #1 in physics. Didn't have all those options though. Didn't have all those tweaking and tuning options that you would expect. It still feels like there's more to come from Assetto Corsa. rFactor, on the other hand, it's kind of making me change my mind. I'm not sure. Maybe road cars will have a better feel in Assetto Corsa, but for race cars, what I really need is I need an official car in Assetto Corsa that's also in... Oh dear. I need an official car that's in Assetto Corsa. It's still raining over here. It's not raining on the other side of the track, I don't think. An official car in Assetto Corsa and an official car in rFactor that I can compare head to head. That's what I need to be able to do. I need to be able to compare two cars head to head and then really understand and get a good feel for which one feels better. And preferably it needs to be a road car that maybe I would understand the feel, because obviously racing cars, it's kind of subjective. Some people prefer certain types of racing cars, but at least... Whoa. Okay, well, I tell you what we're going to do. Let's go for a dry lap now. But at least you'd have a really good feel for comparing the two cars, or comparing the same car on two different... Let's go for... should we go for sunny? 29 degrees, why not? 1 p.m. You know, it'd be really nice to be able to compare that, so at least I'd understand, because I've got a feeling that this is better. This is actually a better physics-wise, just marginally. Force feedback-wise, though, it definitely is better. It's definitely better force feedback-wise. I can feel the bumps a lot better. I can feel understeer and oversteer very quickly in the wheel and respond and react to them a lot faster than I would otherwise expect. So I do think that in force feedback terms, rFactor is superior to Assetto Corsa. Right. Now let's see what sort of lap times I can produce. Now I did a 1:47 the other day, so let's see if I can replicate that 1:47 whilst talking to you guys, because now obviously I've done a few laps, so I should be able to replicate it and still be able to talk to you. I've done a few dry laps, so it should be possible, but you never know. You really never know. Overall, I think it's really nice. I haven't had to make any adjustments to the force feedback or anything. This is just stock force feedback, and it does feel very intuitive, very fluid. The physics feel fluid. The graphics, like I said, you can work on them, but I got that wrong. But even though whilst working on them, there's just a really nice feel to this. I'm very impressed. Studio 397, whatever you're doing with the DX11 updates, I'm very impressed. And ISI, who I think had this before you, what you did with the physics and the platform, very impressive. Very impressive, and I think I will be playing rFactor a lot more. It feels, that's not to say I don't like Assetto Corsa anymore. No, I definitely like Assetto Corsa. But, you know, to be able to do that, I would not be able to do that in Assetto Corsa. I'm pretty sure I would not be able to do that in Assetto Corsa. To be able to catch that quickly, I felt it. I understood what was going on. And it's just, yeah, it's just a really nice feeling. And you know, I've got a really good feeling of the understeer and oversteer aspects of this car, and I've got a good feel of the gears. And maybe it's just this car. I mean, it may be that when I try other cars in other videos, if you guys want me to make more videos on it, it may be that those other cars aren't as good. Maybe it's just this car and this track combination. But so far, colour me very impressed. I missed the apex. I'm really sort of pushing. I can feel the car understeering and sliding into the corner. I can feel the wheels definitely sliding. I had a little bit of under rotation in the low speed section as well. Let's see if I can get this right. Nope, still didn't get that right. I know where I want that. I know where I need to point that in, and I know I don't have to brake for it. I know for a fact I don't have to brake for that. I haven't got this too right either, but I can recover. So I hope you guys are enjoying this video, and I hope you're enjoying my first impressions of rFactor. Yeah, really, I'm quite happy with this. It's a very well-made simulator, and it's something that I think I could go hot lap with again and again and again for quite a while. As you can see, I've also set up my brake bias already. There we go. 148.75. I think I can go faster. I had a 147.3. So if I can get into the 147s, that would be quite nice. This just shows that I can actually talk whilst driving. Although that was a pretty bad corner. Would I recommend purchasing rFactor? For those people who are considering purchasing rFactor, odds are most of you have already got it, but would I consider a purchase of rFactor? Actually, I would. It feels... It's a very different feeling to Assetto Corsa. Don't get me wrong, the Assetto Corsa it's very intense, but this is something else. This really is something else. That's how I do it. Well, I can still do that better, but this is definitely something completely new. Ooh, almost entirely cut that. So yes, I would heartily recommend a purchase if you've got a steering wheel. If you've got a controller, then I think you're not going to see much difference between the likes of this and Assetto Corsa or even Project Cars or anything like that. I don't think you're going to see too much of a difference on a controller. It's really steering wheels that you're going to see that difference in. Should have carried more speed through that. Still, could be worse.
The lap was a 147.96.
147.96. I'm only 6/10 off the fastest time I've done in this. So I tell you what, let's end the video very, very shortly. I don't know how long it's been going on for, but let's end that video pretty sharpish. Do remember to hit the like button if you like this video. Subscribe to my channel for more videos on rFactor if you want it. So please do leave it in the comments box below. Let me know what you think of rFactor, and if you want to have more videos of rFactor on this channel, then please do leave it in the comments box below. That would be massively appreciated. Last but not least, do check out my Patreon scheme. Link to that is in the description box below. I would really appreciate your support. It will allow me to be able to create these videos more and more, and just enjoy creating the videos, and be able to spend more time editing it to make better videos, because at the end of the day, that's what makes a good video. It's the edits that make a good video, not just having a decent video. It's the quality of the video, and the intro, the exit, and all that kind of stuff. And supporting me on Patreon will allow me to get better equipment, faster, make better quality videos, be able to edit videos better, and so on and so forth. So I would really appreciate that if you can. We'll finish off this lap, and then we'll call it a video. Let's see what that was. 147.5?
The lap was a 147.47.
There we go. 147.47. I think I'll end it there. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you guys, hopefully, in another episode. Can I do donuts? I wonder. I probably could. Let's give that a quick go before we end. Yeah, we can give ourselves some. Not too bad. Okay. I'll see you guys next time.